So you do some pretty long flights. Like I think you've flown to Jamaica and stuff a few times.
I have.
So when you do, and you've got 6-hour, 8-hour flight, what do the captains do, or that's something you can't tell us?
Well, I can tell you a lot of things that we're not allowed to do.
Not allowed to do. Okay.
We're not supposed to read, not supposed to do any reading that's not pertinent to the flight.
Sure.
However, that means we can study. We can study for training. We can read airplane manuals. We can talk about new policies and procedures.
Okay.
But generally, we just end up doing a lot of talking and looking out the window, looking at maps.
Okay.
We drink a lot of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
The flight attendants will bring us food if there's some left over, if they're feeling generous.
Is it true that pilots can't have the same meal in case there's like food poisoning and you both die?
It says in our flight ops manual there's a definition of the word should, will, must.
Okay, yep.
And it says should
Yep.
is generally a good guideline, and I believe our manual says pilots should try to avoid eating the same meal prior to a flight.
Okay.
However, it doesn't say anything about it during a flight.
Sure.
So it's kind of a vague thing, but it is actually mentioned.
Okay, it is.
So,
okay.
However, like the chances of both of us like eating peanuts on a flight are pretty high.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And then obviously pilots are allowed to use the restroom, because I've seen pilots come out and use the restroom.
Yep. So we can go out, we can use the restroom. And,
like, can anybody fly the plane? I gotta use the restroom.
When the one pilot leaves, the other pilot has to put the oxygen mask on.
Oh, I've heard of that before.
Which is very inconvenient. And actually, it was just passed in Congress last year to where they'll reauthorize, and at some point the FAA will change the law, but Congress already passed it that we won't have to wear it unless we're above 41,000 feet, which would almost mean we'd never have to wear it.
You really...
Yeah.
What, you normally cruise at like 36,000 maybe? 34?
Yeah, 30 to 36.
Depending on the weather.
Yeah, the weight, the weather, and the winds, yeah. So those different factors would normally mean we're below 41, so that would be a nice thing not to have to wear the mask when the other pilot goes out.
Right.
But
yeah, that I have heard before.
Yeah, I mean, the company publishes a lot of safety newsletters.
Okay.
So we'll read those and kind of talk about them. We are kind of in a high serious layer.
Yeah. This is my review when I fly.
It's a good view. It's a window seat.
But that's your view, right there.
Inevitably, politics comes up in the flight deck all the time.
Does it really?
So normally you can kind of tell if you're on the same page with somebody or not, and then you just kind of leave it alone.
Kind of feel it out, yeah.
Because it can become a long trip if you're not on the same page.
Yeah. So do you normally fly with the same pilot?
For that trip. So whether it's 3, 4, 5 days long, yeah.
Okay. And then, since you are flying in the big leagues, do you ever fly with that same pilot again, or will you may never see them again?
You never know. You could. I have flown multiple times with the same pilot, but there's also a chance that they might be retiring next week. So there are you never know.
Right. And then I've been not in this video, but I previously referred to you as a first officer, but you're a pilot monitoring.
Pilot monitoring, pilot flying, it switches based on who's.
It does.
Yes. So whoever's leg it is, whoever's flying. So say I'm the pilot flying today. In our simulation, whoever would, even whether he's the captain or the first officer, whoever's not flying is in essence the pilot monitoring. And so they're responsible for talking on the radio with ATC, communicating with the flight attendants, monitoring fuel, all sorts of other kind of, and monitoring the flight plan or the flight path. Making sure I'm putting the airplane where it's supposed to be is the important job. They're backing me up. So I think that being a good pilot monitoring is much more important than being a pilot flying.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
Because you're really the eyes. You see the mistakes.
Yeah.
But the other guy doesn't.
So do you have any aspirations to fly like the 777s or anything and do like from New York to Italy, or are you doing that already on the 738?
Love to do Europe trips, whatever gets me over there. Whether it's 777, Airbuses, the A330.
Okay.
Any of those planes would be tremendous.
Yeah.
So the more lift generally, the more pay that comes with the plane.
Sure.
And also the more they call it dozing for dollars.
Okay.
'Cause there's crew rest facilities on those aircraft. So
okay.
you take off, you go on a 4-hour break or a 3-hour break or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You eat some dinner, take a nap, come back up, do your shift.
So you actually run shifts on an airplane that's in flight.
Exactly.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
All these pilot videos I watch on YouTube that are kind of sensationalized and they're tweaking things because they can't tell you some things, but I never heard that. So that means there's more than 2 pilots then?
Yes,
okay.
depending on the route length.
I did not know that.
So so you might have 3 or 4 pilots.
Wow.
Going to Singapore, my friend was just over in Singapore the other day, and there are 4 pilots, 2 captains and 2 first officers.
Wow.
Just because it's a 16-hour flight.
Right.
The rest requirements require there be that many.
That's what I've always wondered, because I know there were rest requirements.
Exactly.
I just thought maybe if it was a 16-hour flight, you were grandfathered in until you land or something. But that's not the case.
No. Yeah, they can actually go. And I saw a news article about a pilot. And this is just a funny side note how the media sometimes gets aviation so wrong. It's United Airlines pilot leaves flight deck and takes nap during Pacific crossing. Well, they do that on every single Pacific crossing that's ever happened at every major airline.
That too. And my favorite is when they call the pavement the tarmac, because my understanding there's no such thing as tarmac. It was a company that made pavement in the 50s.
No way.
Just like Kleenex.
Yeah.
So when they say the tarmac, there's no part of an airport that's called the tarmac. It's a company that made pavement in like the 50s.
No way.
And they just happen to also pave parts of airports. So they called it the tarmac.
I learn something every day.
hate that on the news. The tarmac. No, there's no such thing as the tarmac. Oh my gosh.
Pilots will never. I've never heard a pilot say tarmac.
No, because it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist.
Ramp, runway, taxiway.
Or they'll be like, the plane was delayed and the passengers were stuck on the tarmac for 12 hours. So they must be invisible passengers, because there's no such thing. The tarmac. That's my favorite. Of course, no one believes me, but whatever.
I'm gonna listen for that now.
Yeah.
That's pretty fun.
Hoping there's top of descent coming up.
Look at that.
Yeah.
It's a very welcome sight after a 6-hour flight.
Yeah.
So I put we can come in here and add altitudes to fixes. So I made sure that we'll cross this fixed chill.
Oh, based on your
at
chart.
10,000 feet.
Right.
Yeah, and it's actually not in the chart.
Okay.
But the altitudes down there are all around 5,000 feet, and the minimum safe is 7,500.
The train altitude. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll put 10,000 in there, and what that'll do is that'll just give us time to get slowed down and all those things. We will always do this in the real airplane. Building in. It's
interesting too, because I showed you how when I do my flight plan for my slant alpha and GA, I actually write it on a piece of paper, and I will do that exact same thing where if it's ambiguous or there's no ATC to direct me, I'll look at terrain and be like, okay, I want to be at this point, at this VOR for me, at this altitude. And it's kind of funny because I have, in the previous video I discussed, I have no formal training at all. It's just stuff I picked up. So it's really cool when I see you do something. I'm like, that's how I do it. Wow.
Well, it's really pretty much common sense.
That's what I was just gonna say. That
yeah.
it is common sense.
And that's kind of how the Boeing is designed. The Airbus is much more. And I've not flown an Airbus, so take what I say about the Airbus with a grain of salt. But it seems much more like, okay, this happened, now do this.
Mm-hmm.
The Boeing is kind of more common sense. Okay, the power turned off. Okay, let's try to turn it back on with the switch.
Yeah. Do you know any Airbus pilots?
Yeah.
Do you guys get into debates on your off time about?
Oh, they joke about how I'm like a dump truck driver, and
living
how
in
they drive a Ferrari.
living in the 60s.
Yeah. There's lots of memes out there. I'm sure you've seen them.
As far as simulator stuff, I've seen both in the simulator, and I like the Boeing, but I also prefer the 727. So of course I'm gonna like anything that's older.
I saw a meme today that said all the 787 Maxes are trying to repaint themselves as Airbuses real quick just to get off the ground real quick.
Because that's something that's close to you, is keeping up on that and how that's going to be.
I've been getting a lot of text messages. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I bet.
This is a longer flight than I thought.
Yeah, it is. Well,
Alaska's
big. We're flying down the coast of Alaska.
Yeah. You know what we can do?
Other than speed up the sim, which
I'll show you a cool trick in the box here. So this tells us our current cruising altitude, our optimum cruising altitude, and then our maximum cruising altitude. And so let's just pop up to 350. So we can set it here, and this shows you how interconnected this FMC is with everything. And I can just hit altitude intervene. We'll see if, and it recruised the box.
Sure.
It says 35.
And the reason for a higher thinner air, so you can go faster if the engines can propel you through lighter air? Thinner air? You
can, yeah.
Okay.
Up until a point. Yeah.
Right.
So the engines kind of poop out after a certain.
Yep.
And then what I'll do here is, since the auto throttles are kind of,
because that speed tape, that's indicated airspeed. So you could stay at 333 at different altitudes, but your ground speed is going to be different. Like, correct. I would think your ground speed would actually be faster if your airspeed were constant in thinner air. Because to get that airspeed, you got to move faster, so your ground speed is going to pick up.
So we were doing 479, 480.
Mm-hmm.
We've maintained this constant Mach of 0.79. This tape should come down. That's a little strange, but anyway.
It's over speed.
We're climbing at 80, which is pretty good. So once we get leveled off, we'll see what our ground speed is. See if we pick any up or not.
And there's top of descent. And then that yak is the fix or the waypoint we're going towards.
Correct. Yeah, that is the Yakuat VOR.
Okay, so it's actually VOR in this case.
Normally, 3 letters are VORs, 2 are NDBs,
and 5 are
waypoints. Yeah, and then 4 are localizers.
In my understanding, obviously you would know more than I would, that in the United States anyway, the 5-letter waypoints all they have meaning for the locals.
They do.
And the example that people like to use is in Disney, the waypoints show Disney characters, and Duluth, you have home of Cirrus, and then Cirrus for the runway 27.
Really?
Yep, that's how I remember that, because that's Cirrus headquarters. So you've got home of, followed by Cirrus, and then the runway.
Wow.
So no matter where you come from, you arc into home of. And that's the reason why my channel is 15 nautical mile arc, is because when you do a VOR approach, there's a 15 DME arc to runway 27 in Duluth. KLDH. Yep.
Wow.
That's how I picked the. So really, my channel should be 15 DME arc, or not 15.
And that's a pretty arc because you're out over the water.
It is. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's how I picked the name, and then the Cirrus is there.
I think, I'm just thinking about this, I think that the auto throttles on here probably work, but it's probably something with the binding.
Just like our fuel was, yeah.
Or
look how they're shaking like crazy.
Yeah, too. It's trying to do the auto throttles. Mm-hmm. Watch, if I turn the auto throttles off, I bet they stop shaking. Look at that.
Yep.
As the auto throttles are trying to do their thing, but they said this binding is more powerful, and it's overriding it.
And if I were to fly this regularly, I would work all that stuff out.
Sure. No, yeah. So I'm trying to talk up the ZIBO mod and say I'm sure the auto throttles actually work.
And then, I'll probably never load this aircraft again, but it's fun to look at.
Sure.
It kind of makes me want to kind of learn it, but I'm saving it when FlyJ Sim does the Q400 or the Dash 8.
Sure.
However long it takes them. That's when I'll put my effort into, because it has the same very similar glass cockpit stuff and FMC and everything. So that's when I'll put my efforts into learning that.
Well, I really like your style of just doing the slant alpha, because so few people do that.
Yeah.
And it keeps you engaged. And I'm just pointing it at that YAK VOR and with pushing the LNAV button there.
Yeah. So in your flight training, I assume you had to learn all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
You still have to learn how to navigate VOR to VOR, and
but it was never at 500 miles an hour.
Okay, which is what I do in the sim. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Which
which makes a difference, because when you're calculating stuff, it's like you calculate, and by the time you calculate it, that was 20 miles ago, and I got to recalculate it.
Yeah, and and the only reason I had to learn that is because it was installed in the airplane which I took my check ride in.
Okay.
So if you take your check ride in an airplane that has, let's say, a G1000, a Garmin,
right,
you don't have to learn slant alpha navigation.
Really? I thought you had to learn all the steps going up.
You do have to, however, be able to pass the written test, which
right.
does include a lot of that
right.
stuff.
But then that's just theory, which I could see.
Is.
I can see how somebody can learn theory but not be able to apply it to an airplane.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can see that happening.
Because we never do anything near slant alpha.
Right.
However, in the MD-88, they're tuning VORs and flying VORs.
Yep.
And those are still flying.
Mm-hmm.
MD-90s, Super 80s. I probably don't need all the landing lights.
I was going to say, yeah, what you're like that. I was reading about why
That's what the captain's supposed to do, is turn his own landing lights off.
I was reading about why the bottom of the engines are flat, and it's for clearance.
It is.
Because the 737 is so low, and they keep sticking bigger engines on it, but they don't fit. So they flatten them out.
Exactly. Because when it was designed, it started with straight turbojets, much like the 7.2 engines.
And the 732s were tiny little things.
Little cigar engines, yeah. Those are big fat ones.
Yep, and they're just getting... Well, they're quiet and efficient, and...
Yeah.
So what is the... I know there's ratings for airplanes for engine failure over water.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you can only fly within a certain distance of a backup airport in case of engine failure. Because I remember reading about when they started pushing these 2-engine instead of 4-engine.
Sure.
People were freaking out because they're like, what if both engines fail? Well, first of all, that's like chances of winning the lottery type thing.
Yeah.
But then they came up with things saying, okay, this airplane is only certified to be this far from land or airport in case of engine failure. So do you know what that is in the 738? Because you fly over water.
It depends, yeah. So we have some ETOPS certified 900s, ERs.
Okay.
And they're certified ETOPS for 180 minutes over water. And ETOPS does not stand for engines turning or people swimming. It stands for extended overwater performance.
That's funny. See, I only know by its real name because I looked it up.
A few of our airplanes are ETOPS certified. However, we normally do not use the 180-minute ETOPS certification. We normally use a 60-minute ETOPS certification, which is much more standard, based on our procedures, and most of that has to do with actually firefighting certification.
Okay.
So most of our airplanes can do a 60-minute ETOPS.
Right. And then because you're not flying 738s to Australia or anything like that, where you're going to be over water for a couple hours. Period.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, at any point in our route, we could be basically an hour from land.
Okay. All right.
So, which is really the big thing with that is, it is engine performance, but it's also firefighting capability. That's the key is firefighting capability, and whether we have more fire suppression to last if there was a smoldering, say, lithium-ion battery fire, to suppress it for 180 minutes, because that's a lot of halon to carry around.
Yeah, it is.
So let's see if this VSD works. Look at that. This is our vertical situation display, so it gives us kind of a 3D picture, and a plan view of our descent. It's kind of nice. I like to use that.
Yeah, so right now it's level flight, and then it'll...
Yep, and then it'll pipe down and it'll show us the altitude restrictions that I've put in there, and I'm going to set us up for our landing numbers as well. Just double tap it and it's all in there. The thing we want to confirm is that the glide slope is off. Otherwise, it's going to look for a glide slope signal.
Okay.
Just kind of brief it like I would in the real airplane. We talk about the weather, and then we talk about any NOTAMs or any runway closures that there might be, and then we'll talk about kind of the automation level that will fly.
Okay.
And I'm going to hit the approach mode, and that's going to take us down not a glide slope but the glide path.
Yep. And
it's basically a calculated glide slope.
Okay.
That's gonna make sure that we're meeting the fixes, and we gonna go back and look at the approach here. We won't really hit that until we're kind of well established on the approach, because what that kind of getting into the weeds, but that doesn't ensure that we'll meet all the altitudes if we're in approach mode. Okay. We'll ensure that we meet all the approach altitudes by keeping it in the VNAV mode, and that just keeps us safe.
Okay.
When we break out, there's runway lead-in lights, which should be up to our left, and then it's going to be like a right turn to line up with the runway.
Okay.
And the key here is we always brief a missed approach. I think we'll probably just land today.
Yeah.
A missed approach, they want you to initiate it 2 miles from the runway. That's kind of your decision point, and that's what makes this airport so specialized.
Okay.
Because inside of 2 miles, you're really committed to a valley to do your go around in, which is incredibly treacherous with air currents and turbulence.
And that's one thing that makes this truly challenging, because we talked about, like when I land at TVOT with you, or TVOT in the 727, it's like if you follow the numbers and do what you're supposed to do, there's no danger. But in this case, with the decision being 2 miles away and you're committed, you're like, oh, we got it. And you're like, actually, we're going way the heck too fast. Then you're in trouble. Yeah. That airplane over on the right is doing loop-de-loops.
It's doing some sky art there. Well, I think we'll start down. This out intervene button is our friend, and it starts everything. I spun in a lower altitude. We'd like to cross that chill fix at 10,000. Out intervene started this. This shows our vertical path deviation. So we're 2,200 feet below the planned path, and it should have started us down when I clicked on it.
Yeah, these are screens I've never seen before.
Surprised that it didn't start us down. The second push deleted the altitude at chill, which is what it's supposed to do. I'd like to keep that. So it's going to grab that altitude, and that's coming in really fast. That's why I pushed that button in the first place. And so I think that functionality might not be.
Okay.
But on the right side here, we can see our path is coming down. It's going to struggle to keep up with that. So I brought the throttle to idle.
Sure.
We'll see what it does. Because now we're going to be above the path.
Yep.
So I'm going to come out with some speed brakes. I forget, is it
this one? The outside one, yeah. Then you can hear the sound of the brakes. That's so cool.
I'm just going to turn the auto throttles off because they're just being more of a pain right now than anything. So yeah, now we're going way high on path. So this thing did not do a very good job of calculating the path. But you can see that's our first fix. We'd like to cross it at 10,000. At this point on, you can see the green terrain below it.
That is so cool.
Isn't that nice?
Oh, that is so cool.
So it really gives you some massive situational awareness for all kinds.
You get a 3D picture on a 2D screen.
Yeah.
Between those two, between the display and the overlay. Yeah.
Yeah, so we get a lot of information right here. And I think you might have asked me, the charts are really for reference at this point. Right. You know, it's just look at the charts, make sure everything's in the box as it is in the chart, and then fly it. Yeah. And speeds are in the box there. But it's really gonna do just what you want it. Yeah, the path is a little funky in here, probably because it's just not how Boeing designed it, but it seems to be working. But we call that the little football there. It's kind of coming back up towards us.
Sure.
Which means we're doing good.
It's almost like following the ILS or the glide slope.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. But this is like on a bigger scale because this is the descent of the flight.
Yeah, and that's what all this has done is just kind of snap the line in space for us to follow. I'm gonna accelerate our descent speed as well. It says drag required, and it normally says that if your airspeed exceeds 10 knots over the bug speed. Let's say we want to go down to 320. Normally you want to plan 300 knots. If you don't plan 300 knots, you kind of get yourself in a bind if air traffic control needs you to get down quicker. Sure. But that's kind of more of a real world thing. You can do whatever you want in the sim.
Right.
It's kind of awesome, actually.
Yeah. Like when you did barrel roll the other day.
That was fun. So we go to the descent page, and this tells us vertical deviation. We're 2 feet high. That's like perfect.
Yeah.
It kind of tells us our next altitude target, 250 knots, 10,000. And then a vertical bearing is like a flight path angle of 2.8 degrees. Flight path angle is 3.5 degrees, but between our current position and there, it's a 2.8 degree. And we need do about 2,000 some feet a minute.
Just like when I do when I'm doing the vertical descent on the GPS that's built in, you've got your profile and your target for descent. So you might say, I want to descend at 800 feet per minute, but the VSR says, 1,000, so you actually got to come down 1,000, not 800. 800 is what you wanted to do, but that's not what you really want to do. I think people get stuff like that mixed up. They're not paying attention to all the numbers. And they're like, I'm just following the 800 thing, and I'm way too high. Well, yeah, your VSR said 1,100, and it's only going higher as you get closer to where you're going to end up.
One of the things that they have us do as part of like preparing to work for a major airline is in part of the testing and quizzing is it's a pretty advanced written test, and some of the questions are very much like 727 style navigation questions, such as if you say you're cruising at 38,000 feet, and you want to cross the XYZ VOR at this altitude, when you need to start down. And just like you said the other night, it's the 8 miles a minute if you're going Mach 8.0. Yeah. So whatever your Mach speed is, you can just, if it's 0.8, you can just, add. We'll just make it a whole number. So, and then you're really talking about miles a minute, and then it's easy. Yep. And then the 3-to-1 rule is just great. You can say you can descend 3 miles in 1 minute. Yep. Basically.
Yep. Yeah, that's how I calculate whenever I'll usually calculate where I want to cross something 727, and then I sight see, and I get back in the cockpit and realize, I blew right by that 30 miles ago. So now we have to recalculate. But that's okay, because although people would argue it's not a visual simulator, it's a flight simulator, which I totally get both sides, because people are really into the eye candy and stuff.
That's half the fun of it for me. It is half the,
especially for you, because you don't get to sightsee when you fly.
Look at this right there, the paint chipping. Yeah, that's almost perfect. Yep. They could do a few things, like this little piece of rubber gets cut away because we're always using the mic switch right there. Yeah. But still, it's very, very accurate.
Does not look cool.
And what's interesting, we're descending, and it's kind of hard to tell.
But look at that. There's the water. We're coming down. And we're apparently going to clear that train. I trust you.
Hopefully.
But yeah, so it's like flight simulator versus like eye candy simulator or something. But at this point in a flight simulator, I think It's clearly a combination of flight modeling and visual. We're back in the original like MS Flight Simulator days. I mean, it was all about just practicing for IFR stuff.
Sure.
You know? Like you fly to Chicago and you get this thing the triangle that represents the John Hancock Tower, and that's all you get for visual stuff. And you're just looking at gauges type thing. But now it's kind of like two worlds colliding, the eye candy stuff and the accurate flight modeling. But as long as you run the flight simulator at 20 frames per second or higher, you get real time and you can practice anything. If you drop below 20 frames per second, you can't do anything.
Then it kind of lags behind. This is, I think, great training for, you know, I part of me wishes I had the ZIBO mod to kind of practice when I was in initial training. This is very detailed. I could have definitely learned, you know, how a lot of things worked. They did have a basic like simulator that ran on a tablet.
Okay.
But it wasn't a flight simulator. It was more of a flight deck simulator.
I was gonna say a flight deck simulator, exactly, or like a panel simulator.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Where you could do an approach, but you were actually, you know, you weren't ever looking outside. Right. You were just looking at the instruments the whole entire time.
Yep.
Which was pretty cool, actually. So this got us down to our level altitude almost 7 miles early. That's fine. So the terrain there on this VSD is only look ahead. So it can be very terrifying if there's a tall mountain straight ahead of us, but we're actually going to turn left up this valley.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
So it can scare you. What I've done is I've set 3,500, which is the altitude at Barlow, which is the final approach fix. And I'm just going to go ahead and set actually we're going to turn right down the valley. And then we're going to turn left up the valley. That's our final approach course heading there. That's what auto throttles are for, guys.
But there's also simulators, so just push it until it.
Yep.
Wow, look at that terrain.
Isn't that gorgeous? So you can see how this might look a little scary, and it did more when I was in the range out. Because it's literally looking straight ahead.
Yep.
There's a line here and a line here, which that one just moved in, and now this one's moving out. And that is the diameter of which this terrain is being displayed in.
Okay.
It's kind of wandering here. I'm not really sure why it's doing this. See how this, it's kind of off the course. I'm not sure why it's doing that. It did that at another fixed passage. So hopefully it doesn't do that as we get down onto.
Yeah, because it needs to be.
We need to be on the course.
Yeah, exactly.
For everything to work right, but we'll find out. Otherwise, we'll just fly it by hand.
Yeah, which I end up doing a lot when like it's so much work to fly with autopilot. I'll just fly it by hand.
All right, so there we're starting a descent now, and it's just automatically doing that. And
got the quick look at this terrain.
Oh yeah, do it.
Look at that. Jeez.
Right there, and this is probably about as close as we get.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Take screenshots. Whoop, wrong one. Wow.
Okay, so it's kind of getting us back on the course here.
So how high, is there anything that tells us how high we are above the terrain?
We have a radio altimeter, but it doesn't start till 2,500.
Oh.
So we are at least
more than 2,500. Okay.
Yeah.
Because my understanding, well, probably not this, but in like GA flights, you want to be at least 1,000 feet above your terrain because like wind and like they might say the winds are this, but not when you're next to a mountain. They're not. They're going to go around and do whatever they want to do, and people get really in big trouble when they're like, "Us fly between these mountains. It looks so pretty." Well,
absolutely.
You don't see the winds until you're already a goner. Then you realize there was wind. So yeah, at least 1,000 feet above for GA flying.
So this is very accurate. The speed awareness tape here.
Okay.
That is absolutely what.
So what's that
exactly
orange line?
Like. The orange line shows you the next anticipated flap levels.
Okay.
Speed limit.
Okay.
So if I was to go to flaps 210 right now. I wouldn't exceed it. Flap speeds are here. 210 is the flaps 10 limit speed, but I would exceed it at 200. So it comes right down. Actually, no, this is going to 210. Or to flaps 10.
So did you put flaps down 5 and I missed it?
I did, yeah.
You did, okay.
Sorry, I did it.
I thought maybe the computer did that. I'm like, wow.
I wish.
You almost would think the computer would at some point. Well, here's a question for you then too. What do you hear about? Don't know if it's true or not, but you hear these stories how like people will fall asleep in an Airbus, and ATC can talk to the FMC and bring the plane in. Is that really true?
I'm not sure about that. I don't think so. I think that will be a capability at some point. It's just not currently.
Right.
So now what I can do is hit approach mode, and hopefully this works right. So it says Vorloc, which is the actual localizer,
right? And
then GP is armed. So that's the calculated path.
Okay.
And then the runway is gonna be somewhere out here, I believe.
I think.
Is that some sort of a light?
I think so. You should see a beacon at some point. Yeah, I think that's the beacon.
And then those two mountains off to the right are the channel. And if we were able to at some point ever load that RMP-26, it comes up that channel. Wow. You're below the tops of mountains on both sides.
That's crazy.
I've seen a video of them shooting it.
Oof. It's one thing in like a GA plane to do that, but to be doing that in a jet,
in an airliner, yeah.
That must be something.
And there's like 4 different reporting points along the approach that all have to have winds within certain limits.
Okay.
Because if they're over that, you're gonna have severe turbulence in there. So that's his GP captured. So that's gonna take us right on down.
Okay. And this is still autopilot. This is still FMC.
Yep.
Right?
Autopilot's doing everything right now, except for the throttles. I'm doing the throttles. Okay. Now it decoupled, which is interesting. I'm gonna go back to LNAV and VNAV.
And again, anything that is throwing you off. I mean, you do this every day of your life as a professional without issues. So anything that is strange is simulator.
That's a little bit weird that it would do that. But it's gonna catch up with itself here any second. I'm just gonna fly it in LNAV VNAV. That's another approved method to do this approach. And in that case, we need to spin in our Barrowmans, which are 1,000.
Okay. 1,000 to go.
He's got his callouts down.
Yeah, that's fun. Like, in planes like this, you need the callouts.
Yeah.
What happens is I get used to what the simulator looks like, and then I fly a small plane, and I'm like 20 feet above the runway because I'm like, where's the ground? Where's the ground? And then you finally land, and you're so low. It's like, whoa, it's hard to get used to,
Sure.
Because, I'm trying to think what plane. Yes, so yeah, the jets have callouts. And some GA do to like 100, but then not below 100. So when you start to flare, how are you listening for the callouts before you start to flare? Or you've done it so many times you just feel it and you know it?
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting until about 30.
Okay.
And then I start a small flare at 30.
Okay.
The CGL waypoint, I would never do this in the real airplane this low, but I'm just gonna make it a little ring around it. That's kind of that's the 2 mile fix. Where no more go arounds after that. Or a go around, you're really becoming a test pilot.
Yeah, and then that red on the train means we're pretty much below it.
Yeah. That's so
That's
cool.
Crazy. Let's go. Actually, let's just.
Do you want to watch outside when the gear comes down?
Oh yeah.
Put the gear down now. Normally we do gear and flaps to 15 all at the same time.
Oops. No, your flap config.
A little lifting hook on the wing there.
What would that be used for?
Well, weighing the airplane.
Okay.
Or I'm not sure if they'd use that in the paint shop or.
So there's the runway, but we're on the glide path.
Yeah, so the VNAV path will take us right down, basically to the runway, and then we set in our missed approach altitude, which is.
So when would you take over by hand? At that 2 mile?
Yeah. that for our missed approach. So generally in this case we probably would have been cleared for a visual approach.
Right.
So I'm going to do flaps 25 and 30, and we'll do a landing checklist, which involves turning these guys onto continuous. Normally the ignition is auto, and if it senses any sort of issue, it'll bring them back on, but my airspeed control is poor because I'm these throttles. So yeah, look at the terrain ahead on the little viewer there.
That's crazy.
Well, what's the autopilot off button? Is there one? Or
push it on there. I don't. I used to have a bound, but and now with updates of X-Plane, it's different things for different planes.
Sure.
So I just always click in the sim instead of bind it to my.
So I'm doing this with the auto, or the flight director rather, turned off, and even doing this, look at the ridge right there.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's crazy.
Well, he said 1,000. You're cleared to land missed approach altitude set, which is the call out that we use.
Wow, you're just gonna skim that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's funny. I want to ask you to do certain things
that I
would do for myself. It's like, hey, can you bug my speed? So I would say, hey, can you bug my speed?
There's a runway though. You're gonna go right by it. Wow. So then I bet if we watch YouTube videos of this landing in real life, it's gonna be just like this.
Hopefully. I don't know. Look at how the Pappy is even offset. It's like, or it's not a Pappy. It's a Vazzy.
The Vazzy, yeah, and it's offset because of the angle you're coming at.
Yeah.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Jeez.
I'm sitting crooked. That's what's good.
Yeah, you're crooked. Yeah, you want me to just straighten you out there? There we go. Spoilers came out.
Sweet. I don't think we even need any reverse. It's just
reverses are that one.
Oh, sweet.
8 knots.
Awesome.
What I think is cool is this is only the second time you've touched a simulator and your landing was perfect.
Wow.
Like, you land better than most simmers, and this is the second time you've touched a home sim. The first landing was a little rough.
It was like a little more of the nose wheel than anything else.
After we stopped recording, we looked at the replay. Or maybe we had that on the video, and you were like riding the front wheel, riding the nose wheel. But that was perfect. And this is only the second time you've touched. It just shows how adaptable then you must be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you have to be adaptable. So you're just like, you're just adapting to the simulator then. Oh yeah, you're gonna have that weird taxi.
You're gonna have the weird taxi issue, but yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's awesome.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, we're just gonna go mow the grass for the folks. Hopefully it doesn't crash if it hits a
No,
hangar.
there's no collision.
Okay, good.
And then people are like, but Microsoft Flight Simulator has collision detection. Why don't you? And Austin Meyer, the writer's like, it's not Crash Simulator.
You know what we could do? Let's run back in the flight deck and shut down an engine.
Oh, that'll help you, yeah.
Let's just do
Yeah.
those both go off. Shutting down an engine is really, really easy, as you know from the 7.2. Now we will turn.
There we go. Now we're going to keep turning.
Sorry, airplanes. Now it's going to be hard to turn to the right, but it hurts my pride a little bit, but at least we made it on the ground. So on the left there's a seaplane runway.
Okay.
That's what
that's
water
what they call,
is.
Yeah, they call it, the poor windsock, not needed today. Let's see what it looks like with one engine running.
It's actually very realistic to shut down an engine on taxi.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Oh, it's still spinning down. Yeah, I've heard that too, where they'll shut down one engine. And, because like the Twin Otter, most places they taxi with one engine.
Yeah.
And I did that once in a flight, and I got a lot of slack for it. I'm like, that's how they do it. And they'll use that to push back a lot. The Twin Otter, they'll push back with reversers.
Oh wow.
And stuff.
We would stand this thing on its tail if we did.
Yeah.
I wonder what it's like in the sim if you could stand it on the tail.
Yeah.
You can.
If you go backwards, hit the brakes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've definitely heard of the taxi with one engine thing.
Yeah, it's quite popular.
Now it seems like it's working.
That's a little better.
I don't know, man.
Interesting. Well, I'm just gonna park it here. Oh, it still should be. It should turn better than that.
Yeah, because you should be able to go like in a circle.
Basically,
with full
yeah.
rudder, yeah.
Basically, the inside landing gear of a turn just does like a 3-foot loop. I'm just gonna park us right here. That's good with you.
And then parking brake. There you go. Hop in.
Sweet.
And then what we can do? Then we'll open up all the doors later. But just because we can.
This is a great model. Anybody out there interested in a 737?
This is
highly
the one.
recommend it because you're basically flying the real airplane.
Yeah, that's awesome. I still don't know what all that ticking sound is, but
Yeah, I'm curious about that too. I wonder. It's the other pilot. He's just kind of antsy and he's tapping.
Alright, so then,
As soon as these lights come on.
oh, you're waiting for power to be available. AP part.
Yeah.
There we go.
And shut them down.
Or in this case, we can pull that back.
Oh yeah. That'll just automatically give me an engine failure.
Yeah. See, like engine failure, just push buttons on the go.
Well, that's really all there is to it.
Yeah. Let's hop over here. Let's click on page 2. So let's go over a page and then do doors. You can just open everything. Oh, it's locked. Oh.
Oh,
It
interesting.
might know we're not.
You know
here.
what? Let's go. I gotta go back and turn some lights off. I bet you.
Oh yeah, that would help it know that it's.
I kind of turned lights out of my flows for this one just to save some time. Oops. Which we're not still pressurized. The only reason I would think the doors would say locked is if we were pressurized.
And so people can't be flying at altitude and open up all the doors. Well, now we can
Oh,
do
there
it.
we go. Open. Just open them all.
Yeah.
See what it looks like.
Yep. And we have a second page too.
Oh, they're going out the overwings. It's actually kind of a big problem is uncommanded evacuations.
Oh, I
Look
bet.
at that.
And
Tremendous.
then I think, let's see. Yeah, then there's like the food service doors,
Yep.
the baggage doors. Is that cool?
Wow.
So the
It took a lot of time to model all that.
Oh yeah. Well, the person's been working on this for years and years and years, and then they just keep doing updates.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. You know,
Oh, the people
felt
are
right at
sitting there.
home.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Ma'am, are you comfortable pushing the emergency exit?
No.
What? Well, thank you very much for coming back and flying this thing.
Absolutely, it was a pleasure.
And like I've said 3 times now, is that the APU thing? Yeah. Like I said 3 times now, please watch the video flying of this pilot flying the default, because there's a lot of side conversation and a lot more narration that just wasn't needed to be repeated for this video. So different format. Hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did, and I can tell our pilot friend here did too, even though it's like after 12:30 in the morning. But anyway, so if you are a big subscriber, thank you for continuing support. If you found me by accident, please like, please subscribe, please share with your friends. I've got a couple flights planned. They're both in Mexico, actually, that I have planned. Subscriber requests and then some other things. I don't know what I'm going to do them in, because it's going to take me a while to edit this one, and I'm going to enjoy every minute of it. So wherever we fly next, I'll see you there. Catch you on the next one.